Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome. Welcome. I have with me here today Rodrigo Pecchio. He is a software engineer. He worked at AWS. He's a super creative guy, and he's doing amazing things today. Rodrigo, uh, go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell the world who you are, what you do. You'll be able to describe it better than I can.
Awesome. Well, first of all, very thankful for this opportunity. Matias is a longtime friend, and I love what he's doing here. Everyone should, I don't know where this is going to show up. If it's YouTube, subscribe. If it's whatever social media, just, promote it. I think he's doing very solid work, and I'm very proud of him. My name is Rodrigo. I grew up in Venezuela, moved to Miami when I was fairly young, and grew up in Miami, like my friend Matias here. Actually, we grew alongside each other in a way. And then after, so I moved to California, where I studied computer science at the University of Southern California. I did dabble in academia for a little, so I did some machine learning research with a professor over there. Was interesting. And then for a couple summers, I interned at Amazon in engineering. So after graduation, joined Amazon full time. So I lived in Seattle for a bit. Didn't love it. There's a lot of rain. So then moved back to Miami, where I joined another team in Amazon. So spent a total of 4 years at Amazon, and then after that, I moved over to Apollo Global Management and working with them as a AI lead engineer with different sort of milestones and challenges that they were working on. And also some time back started working on what is now Drafted. So Drafted is a AI native culture first job platform. And I know it sounds very buzzy or a lot of buzzwords there, but we'll break it down.
Explain it. What is it?
Yeah, for sure. We can begin there. What Drafted does is we connect early talent with startups in the US. So, as many of you listening might have lived or experienced in some way, I'm sure Matthew, you and I have gone through that. The job application process can be pretty difficult, especially for early talent or people who are, when I say early talent, I'm referring to either juniors or seniors or recently graduated. And it's very difficult. And if you look at the numbers, at least in the US, on average, it takes around 9 months for a newly grad to land their first job after college. And after those 9 months, 50% are underemployed, meaning they're working a job completely unrelated to what they studied. So it's a huge problem. Like every year, at least in the US, there's millions of students, very talented candidates going out into the job market. And just because, I see it as a sort of a systematic issue. I mean, there's a lot of things involved, but it's so there's no shortage of talent, and there's no shortage of capital or well-funded companies that can use the talent. So it's not like there's a shortage of either side, Mati, if that makes sense. So it's more of
Absolutely.
a connection problem and a system-wide problem that has been going on for a lot of years. And I'm sure, Mati, you've talked to people who are going through this journey, So finding, the first job out of college. And it's also interesting because we're living at a time in which, the current generation has a much larger or bigger appetite in working in startups. So yeah, I mean, the way that Drafted was born is I joined forces with Andrew Kozlowski, who also went to USC. When he was 18, he started his first company called Brains Power. So it was a supplement company. He did it really well. He paid his way through college, using the earnings from that venture. And he had a lot of street cred in USC. And I was working on something completely unrelated. So I reached out to him. He told me about the idea that he had for Drafted. So he already had the name and the initial vision. And I thought it would be, much more meaningful and impactful than what I was working on. And I resonated with it deeply because I lived it myself. I lived it through, family members and friends. And so we
Wait,
got,
can you go
we
over
got to
that?
working. Right?
Can you go over that piece one more time? What is it that you lived through with family and friends? Because it cut out.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah, perfect now.
Yeah. So firsthand, I lived the experience of, or the anxieties related to just applying to a bunch of jobs and feeling like you're throwing everything to avoid and just
Yeah.
not getting any replies back. I was lucky. Yeah, you lived that, right?
I
I'm
got
sure.
lucky too. I feel like I got lucky. Somehow, some signal, some magical signal. I applied to, I don't know, 100 jobs. Somehow, a magical signal connected me to IBM, and I ended up where I ended up. But I felt like it was luck, to be honest. I mean,
Amazing. Oh yeah. Same here with Amazon. I mean, there was a lot of luck involved in how I was able to intern there, especially since because I did my first year in Miami in FIU. So I think it was like a year and a half, and then I transferred to USC in LA. And yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of luck involved. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Yeah, that's how like sort of the initial vision of Drafted started, and then we started talking to, as you can imagine, a lot of founders, a lot of job seekers, career centers as well. And from the company side, the biggest pain point that startup founders have, and typically between seed and Series B stage, is even though they can be very well funded and growing rapidly and have an amazing culture, they can struggle finding great culture fits. So like the biggest pain point is, first of all, if you're in a fan company, it's very hard for a great candidate to find you. And the second thing is, sometimes they can hire a resume perfect candidate, like with excellent credentials, whatever it is. And then, in 6 months or less, in a lot of, in a lot of situations, they have to let them go because they're just not a great culture fit.
and I
So yeah,
think
those are,
Yeah, I think that's really important to double click on this idea of a culture fit, of what an organization is, what an organization represents, how it's designed, what the vibe is, how people interact with each other. You go to different places, you go to different companies. I talk to a lot of different companies every day, and you
yep,
see
I'm
so
sure.
many different cultures. Some very formal people, very sort of centered on what they do and their jobs. Other people that are more loose and creative and doing different things. I've seen other people that are all very fear-based and anger-based
Yeah.
cultures. You get a few instances of those, and those.
I think we all know, yeah, we all know some examples.
Yeah, but it's really interesting because it's like, how do you take a person, how do you think about who they are, sort of get their qualities, get the qualities of the company, and then do that matching? It's such an interesting problem to
Subjective,
solve.
right?
It's
Yeah.
subjective, but it's also algorithmic. I mean, it's possible to solve it. I think you guys are
Yeah.
doing it in a great way.
We, we believe that. Yeah. I mean, we believe that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it shows in your success. I mean, you've connected with wonderful universities, wonderful
Thank God, yes.
startups, Y
Appreciate
Combinator. I
it.
mean, I think the reputation it shows for itself.
No, yeah, we do work with a good number of YC companies, but yeah, thank you, Matias. I appreciate it. We're very early still in the process, a long way to go. But yeah, we can also talk tech,
Let's
talk about how we
transition.
implemented. Yeah,
Let's
go ahead.
let's transition. Let's transition a little bit. So I want you to answer a question in two parts. So one, what is creativity? And then two,
Wow.
what is software engineering?
Okay, and how they connect, or
You can answer it however you want to answer.
those are okay. Are those are two questions for now? So what is creativity and what is software engineering? Yeah, I think these two questions are super relevant today, as you know, because I know you're also very up to date with everything that's going on, in the tech world and beyond. So yeah, so what is creativity? I think it's a knack or a capacity to connect dots in ways that have not been previously connected, in which you combine different things and come up with a result that is fairly unique or very hard to compare to anything that's been created. And I think that's something that the human species has had from the beginning. That's the reason why I guess we were able to evolve and experiment and you know create science and technology as and civilization as we see it today. And it's very, yeah, I mean, it's something that's very hard to like grasp because it's not binary, similar to like culture aspect of things, and I think everything connects at the end of the day. But yeah, I think that's my best way of describing it. It's just like sometimes it feels like a spontaneous electricity jolt in which you just see or connect things that are very unlikely and yields like something new. So it's like it's almost like you have you're cooking something, you have a pot, and then all of a sudden, for some reason that is very hard to explain, and that a lot of people are trying to discover why, you throw in two different things that haven't been combined before, and you end up getting something special. Yeah, I think that's how I would like describe it to the best of my ability, at least. And then yeah, so I think that's a very good segue or a very good follow up. So you asked like, what is software engineering, right? So yeah, I think software engineering, in a way, can be described or at least seen or visualized as building or assembling Lego blocks in a way that it creates something that can have the form of a product or a feature or a game or sort of an entity, right? Because I remember I've been watching early videos of like the OpenAI founders and also some of the people involved with a very important paper by Google in which they introduced the transformer as we know it today, which was super crucial in machine learning and AI as we see it today. And one of the things that they were saying was, you know, software engineering at the end of the day is a combination of binaries, ones or zeros, that can be creatively arranged to create results. Um, so yeah, I would describe software engineering as assembling pieces together to create new things, and these things can be products, features. I mean, the way that these open early AI like founders or researchers describe the early versions of LLMs was like people spirits, you know,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
which sounds right. It sounds eerie, but it's like a people spirit. It's like an entity when you chat with an LLM, and I think that applies to software engineering as a whole.
yeah, that's a great explanation. I mean, I really like connecting different Lego blocks, and the Lego blocks can nest inside each other, right? And
Yes,
there,
correct.
there's so many considerations. I mean, you painted the picture very well, and there are also so many considerations that you need to take. I mean, you've been working in the machine learning space. You've designed software from the ground up. There's scalability. There's the ability to be compatible with different software. The ability to run in different operating systems. There are so many elements and features and objects that need to coalesce to create that final product, that
Yes.
final feature, that final game. And today it's getting easier and easier to create these, and it's really turtles all the way down because when you start at the binary level, like today we don't
Yeah.
really interact at the binary level.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, so I guess my next question is, okay, and it segues into something else that you told me a long time ago. I asked you for advice, and you said, if you want to become a great software engineering, you need to be an expert at data structures. So why did you say that?
That advice may be dated,
Okay, okay.
but I think it's still relevant in a way. And I'm going to answer that question, Mati. But before I'm going to touch on something that you just mentioned, which I think is super important. I mean, because you were talking, when you were talking, I thought about a couple of things. We talk about building blocks in a way, like cells can be considered building blocks. So then you start thinking like maybe this gets too philosophical, but is everything just a building block? And then I mean, because then you have you have some companies working on like genome like, modification, which is cool. Yeah, I should be more. I mean, yeah, I would like to be more informed than that. I'm not, but just thinking out loud. And then another very very cool thing that you said was we don't deal with binaries today directly, which is 100% true. And in the near future, it can be like we don't deal with code directly. too, you know?
Interesting. Yeah.
Maybe we won't even see code, just, because it's getting very democratized in the sense that we're slowly becoming a society in which development and software engineering is becoming commoditized and democratized. Anyone can build an app, you know? And this is, so the Replit founder went to YC and had a chat on this. I don't know if you saw, but yeah, you should definitely link it somewhere. It's
Okay, I
worth a
will.
look.
I will.
And he talks about this, he talks about like, how software development will be democratized and then the question is like, okay, so what next? What's going to be the differentiator, in the market? Anyway, that's interesting. So your question, yeah, on data structures. Yeah. So
Why
data
are they
structures, I
important?
mean,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
maybe
go ahead.
just like why are they important? Like,
Yeah, I think data structures, I mean, first in a literal sense, they are indeed the building blocks for software in general. And it is something that is common among a lot of programming languages. And, like you have your object oriented programming languages, and you have, a set of data structures in which you can store and arrange, mix and match data. And depending on which data structure you choose, things can be, wildly more efficient. So that's, yeah, I think, yeah, data structures is pretty key. But like, if you allow me to revise that advice, I would say data structures are important, but maybe in this time and age, the most important thing about data structures is not only that they are indeed sort of the backbone or the main building blocks of software, and still are, and probably will continue to be for some time. They will probably evolve. But I think it gives not only programmers, but anyone who's interested in hacking a quick project or building software in general, a good like mental framework of how things are pieced together. Because it's very difficult when you're learning programming and you see as you've probably lived, a super complex, 2,000 lines of code in a file, Java code or even Python, like whatever language. It's hard to say because you're like, okay, like how the heck does this work, right? So like data structures helps you like take a step back and say like, okay, like, if I have this Lego piece that is this size, I can put it together with this shape and yeah, I mean, I think it still holds. It's it's evolving a lot. I expect data structures to continue evolving, as have programming languages. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. But yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that I think the biggest benefit of data structures in this day and age is that it gives people sort of a mental framework of how software is built. More so maybe than like knowing how to program it. I think it's important to understand it. And yeah,
very interesting. Yeah, because each data structure will have its own affordances, its own constraints, and they'll lend themselves to different algorithms based on
yes,
what happens. And what's happening is it goes down very deep into the CPU or assembly language and different data structures. They're going to give you different affordances. And it's very
yes.
interesting because, and we're not going to get into it here, but it goes all the way down
Whatever you want, Mati. You're the boss. For you, I'll do anything.
to so it goes all
Works.
the way to the memory and the memory cells and
Yes.
how each 0 and 1 are aligned together in a
Yes.
RAID on storage arrays. So it's like
Yes.
and it's really interesting because like they ground you, and that's sort of going into my next question is okay, and this is where I want to challenge it a little bit is okay, in the future we're going to have more natural language interfaces to programming. Today we're already building prototypes, but okay,
Yes.
there's still a gap between all right, like go Replit, go build me this, go Bob, Project Bob, go build me that. There's still a gap between that natural language interface and the actual implementation of scalable and maintainable software that you understand. So if I'm a beginner and I'm starting from scratch,
Yes.
how would you advise that I learn to program? Because it's not like there are things that are a lot simpler. Like you can now like be like, okay, here's my data structure, here's my schema, here's how I want to interact with my schema in a user interface.
Yes.
but you see, like I already know these concepts. I can already start to prompt the AI. I can already architect the pieces together at a much higher level and let the AI do some of the grunt work. But still, I mean, some of these decisions on what data structure to use
A
might
lot
be
of nuances. Right, right, right. Like how do you
going
find a
towards
grounding?
itself. It depends on what you
Yeah,
want to do, of course. So, how would you advise, like
yeah,
a beginner, like step one, two, three, four, how do I just learn to create software?
yeah. So I
So,
think yeah, that's a great question, and I'll tell you what I would do, and then for the benefit of anyone listening who's interested in software and wants like a concrete example of like data structure, I can also give we can also paint like a very simple example, like one or two examples that I can think of. And but yeah, if you're learning, if you want to learn software, first of all, there's the cool thing about today is that background doesn't matter, age doesn't matter much either. Like as long as you know how to read, like basic reading, basic math, like just adding, subtracting, I don't know what. This is an interesting question. We can look it up live now, but at what age do we read and like know math? I don't want to like. I think I have no idea. Let's look it up right now. Let's look it up right now. So let's see. It's a very dumb question. So bear with us here because I don't know. I mean, no
four to
idea.
six.
4 to 6. Okay, yeah. So yeah, 4 to 6 year old, you can do some damage in this day and age, and maybe it'll get younger. We'll see. It's crazy. But yeah. So what I would do is first of all, I think for anything that you try to learn, you have to first try and find an angle that is genuinely interesting to you. So, like for example, if you're a gamer or if you like, I don't know, whatever you're passionate about. I mean, because the cool thing about software is that it's completely agnostic in the sense that software and technology can be applied to almost absolutely everything. Like even if you like, I don't know, whatever it is, like dinosaurs or cooking or fashion, whatever it is, you can apply that in some ways. The first thing I would do is I would try and find a project that is open source. And what I mean is that the code is available and you can save it or pull it in some way. Find a project that is very closely related to something that you're genuinely passionate about. It doesn't have to be related to software at all. And then after that, what you can do is you can ask, an AI agent, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever you want. You can tell it break down and explain how this application was built, like in 5 or 10, whatever it is. Well, we said 4 to 6, no, so 4 to 6, and then break down, the fundamentals of what data structures we're using, what languages we're using, and then it can get a little more complicated. But you can also ask like, what libraries or what APIs it's using, how is this happening, and then you can just tell the agent, explain it to me like I'm 5 or whatever it is. Explain it to me in a very simple way. Use examples, like use concrete examples so that I can because humans are very good at learning by um, I don't know if it's like metaphors the word, like by comparisons.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So like use comparisons, whatever. And then oh yeah, and then after that, so after you go through that process, you can then tell it, okay, give me steps to create a similar thing. I can like a simplified version of this from scratch. And I would tell it, but do it interactive. So like with a lot of feedback, like just because one thing about LLMs these days is that it can very easily go crazy, as you know, because you probably use it every day. I do as well. I mean, it's part of my job, but they can very quickly go crazy and just give you like books like, like 10 paragraphs. Like no, you have to be very strict with it. Like slow down. Let's make it interactive, and then it knows like, oh, okay, like it's gonna be like quid pro quo, and then let's interactively build this. And yeah, because at the end of the day, to learn programming and most things, I think being hands-on and building it live, at least for me, is the best way. A lot of people have different styles. Like some people, I also consider myself, well, as I've always drawing and cartoons
Yeah,
when I was little. So like
yeah.
I feel like I'm a very visual learner. So almost everything that I do, I try and draw out, on a whiteboard or whatever it is. So like squares, boxes, arrows. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's how I would try and do it.
Yeah, and just going back to what you were talking about earlier with the building blocks, you know, learning to diagram things, learning to take a big problem,
Yes.
divide it into different parts, understand how the different parts work together to deliver the
Yeah.
whole, to deliver like the ultimate experience they were trying to create.
Yes.
Was very
Yes.
interesting. And also, what you said there is key. To start with a project that really interests you, that you're really passionate about, you can always
It's
find an
easier.
angle. Like software engineering and the thing that you're passionate about, there's always an angle. And when you combine those two, you get a vested interest from yourself, and you really start to understand how computers can apply to
Yes.
everything. I mean,
Spot on.
we started recording data about the world. The ancient Sumerians would count how many goats, how many
Yes.
plants were being harvested. They would do tallies.
Correct.
Now we can store
That's
infinite
early coding.
information. Yeah, it was early coding, exactly, with
Yeah.
a language
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
understanding and an interface.
And I think I could be wrong, but I'm almost sure, Matty, like to your point, I think early programmers or coders were people like in NASA who like manually kept counts of like statistics and stuff. I don't know. I think I saw a movie on that a while ago. I think, so, but that's an evolution of what you said, the Sumerians. It all connects at the end of the day. But Mattia, one thing I will tell, to you and anyone listening who's curious or interested, like there's a lot of founders and a lot of very important voices in the space saying that right now is the best time to try stuff and to build companies or just build cool software, whatever it is. And I do think it needs to be taken with a grain of salt, but I do completely agree. Like I do agree, and I think it's only gonna get better. And yeah, I mean, you don't need a formal CS degree or engineering degree to think like an engineer. You know, what you just mentioned, breaking down problems. Like, I can promise you absolutely everything. Doesn't matter how complex it is. You can always break it down to simple truths. You know, in Amazon they had this thing called the 5 whys, which is, let's say something breaks, like, there's, well, recently there was an outage. I don't know if, so, so yeah, they probably did. I mean, they probably did more than five, but they probably started there. Yeah, we can talk about that. We can talk about some controversial things, but yeah, that was crazy. So the 5 whys is basically like, okay, we know this happened. Why? And then you get to like a fundamental truth. Like, and yeah, it's like first principles thinking can be applied to anything, and you don't need a CS degree, especially in this day and age. Like, you have to take into consideration that LLMs are and will be increasingly good at explaining things, explaining concepts. Like, it's not only use an LLM to help you write code, it's also use an LLM to understand the world, which is, I mean, with XAI, I think that's like the philosophy, like, learn more about the universe through this, which I think is great. I mean, I agree with that. I think it's going to help with advancements in tech and science and medicine, anything. And yeah, I'm pretty optimistic, more than normal. I think, like, more than the average. I think it's going to unlock a ton of things. I also want to talk about, not to shift back the conversation, because there's no agenda here. And also, for anyone listening, Mati and I agreed to do this completely unscripted. Neither he nor I prepared at all, which is cool. We're doing all this live. But yeah, I do want to talk about early talent, because I don't know. I want to ask a question to you. With all the people that you talk to, do you sense like a pulse of people worried about entry level positions and AI replacement, whatever it is? Like, is there fear there?
I definitely think there is. I think there's a lot of fear, especially when they don't have hands-on in the industry. They don't understand it, so they fear what they don't know.
Correct. Fear
And
of the unknown.
and
Yes.
yeah, and they're a little bit sort of disconnected from the whole picture, so they don't understand how to position themselves. Um, and there is fear, but I think that there is, like, we need to be hopeful, because
Yes.
if you make yourself AI first, if you interpret the universe with AI,
Yes.
with LLMs, if you learn
Yes.
how to understand all these concepts, if you shatter all the traditional educational frameworks and traditions that have existed, technology is changing everything. You can add context, you can add exactly where you are, you can help it, you can have it help you create projects. I really think that our ability to learn today is fundamentally being transformed by this technology. And like you said, go out there and build and build and build, and don't be afraid. Like, get connected, reach out to people. And I'm sure that you have even better methods and your own opinion on this,
No, no.
because this is a problem that you're
I'm
solving.
learning. I'm learning every day too, Mati. Like everyone, I'm just learning every day.
There's fear, but I think so. I think the fear is misplaced. So
Yes.
I think our ability to create things is being completely redefined. People are very comfortable with the current jobs they have and the current workflow structures that currently exist. But those
Okay.
workflow structures are based on a world where LLMs didn't really exist. And all of that is
Yeah.
fundamentally changing. So
Yes. There's
everybody's
a lot of
ability,
catch up. There's a lot of catch up, and there's a big sort of disparity still. Yes, for sure.
the
For sure.
ability for
I agree.
every individual to create new resources and to
Yes.
add to the net economy is
Yep.
skyrocketing. So you have to view
Yeah,
it
I
that
agree.
way. You need to
I mean,
take
it's a fact.
advantage and create more, become extraordinary, because now's the time to do it, like you said.
Yeah, and just I think it ties with creativity. So I'm tying it back to what you asked me in the beginning. It ties in with curiosity. So it's like the best time to be curious. You know, you're like if you're curious, you're probably gonna have a happy life or a fulfilling life. Like, I think human nature has to do with like exploring and being curious and creating stuff. Like we're very creative by nature, and this is something that's going to be one of the major challenges in AI. Like how do we, what we talked about in the beginning, how do you have an agent make that combination? How do you have an agent like like spontaneously create something that is so uncomparable to anything? Like there's no point of reference. Like how the heck did this person come up with that? Right? And every great invention follows that. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with your point. But I think that, I mean, there's a couple things that will remain stable. Like there's some truths that I think will hold for 100 plus years. And here it goes. I think if you boil, so if you look at every single job role in the planet, including astronauts, like everything, when you boil down every single job in the world, it all boils down to either being a great storyteller, a great builder, or a combination of both. So, I mean, this is part of the thesis of Drafted is, people come to us, they're like, oh, like we're worried, like AI is changing entry level jobs, like everything's changing so fast. And indeed it is. So it's not like, no, things are not changing. No, they are. And they're going to keep on changing quicker and quicker. It's going to be exponential. Like Moore's Law has been revised, like, I don't know how many times. And what we say is, 100 years from now, companies are going to want great builders, great storytellers, or a combination of both. That's always going to hold. Companies are always going to want great culture fits. We'd have to get too deep into the whole culture thing, but for those wondering, like, why is this person talking so much about culture? I learned it through many conversations with founders and through my time at Amazon. Also, Amazon is ingrains the culture very very strongly, and I think that's maybe its best invention because it's the one that's been able to that environment has been the one that's been able to create things like AWS and all the things that they've done. And I think culture is everything for startups and companies because it's the way people in an organization make decisions. And at the end of the day, a company is made by decisions that are made, especially as it scales. People don't have a strong director telling them what micromanaging them. You want people to have agency. You want people to behave and be entrepreneurs inside of a company. And the most innovative companies behave that way. So they're able to attract great talent. They're able to retain great talent. And they're able to give them full agency. They're able to attract people that fit their culture and add on to it. Like it's not enough to fit to a culture. You have to add to it. Like you have to make it even better. You have to amplify what's working. And that's why we had so many founders come to us and they're like, okay, like we use a bunch of these different sites. It's very hard to like codify culture. We hire a resume perfect candidate from perfect credentials, but in 6 months or less we have to let them go because they just weren't a great culture fit. So startups end up just relying on mutual friends or personal references. Also, for job seekers, it's almost impossible for them to know about all these thousands of great startups, very well funded startups, because they're not a fan company. They don't have the brand recognition. They don't have, an army of headhunters or recruiters going out to the universities and it's crazy because there's so much opportunity and that's the big sort of disconnect that we're trying to tackle. And the way that we're trying to tackle it is culture first and giving candidates a platform to showcase why they're great builders or great storytellers or a combination of both, basically.
I think
That's the core of Drafted.
I think it's a wonderful mental model. You're either a great builder or a great storyteller. I think it's an explanation with very far reach. An explanation of how things work with a very far reach. And I think you touched on a very important point of organizational design. And maybe it's a question that not all founders consider. What is my culture? What are the principles we live by? What is the system I'm designing around me that create the company that I exist in? And I think that's such a valuable perspective you can bring to any company. And as you see different people matching and finding different organizations and the organization assimilating those people into their frameworks, it's such a unique insight that you bring, and seeing the different personalities and the different classes of companies and the different cultural fits.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's almost like each company's like has its own persona, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's cool. Mati, I know you're an avid reader, so I'm gonna recommend you a book. It's
please.
called and you can link it here maybe so people can take a look. It's called Built to Last by Jim Collins. So Jim Collins is a very well known and I think great researcher from Stanford. And what he did is he did over years conducted very deep research into I think the 100 most like long lasting companies. And yeah, at the end of the day, the main thesis of the book is I think what he calls it is when you're creating a company, first of all, culture is sometimes more important than the initial product itself because the product can change. And it's I think he uses I forget the metaphor, but I think it's like he uses the term clock building. You guys will, yeah, I mean, listeners will have to check me on that or look at the book. But I think what he means by clock building is like building a system that generates innovation and that, the output is constantly products, basically. And he finds like common threads between those long lasting companies. And then he does like an analysis of like core values, mission statements of all of them. Super interesting. Like this book, I think Jeff Bezos read it at some point,
That's a
and a
gift.
bunch of other people. So yeah,
Gift for everyone. It sounds like a gift. That's powerful insight. That's
for sure. Yeah,
powerful.
Built to Last, Jim Collins. He has a couple of books, but that one I read a couple others from him, but that's my
I'm gonna
favorite
read
one.
it. All right, that's next on my list. That
Let
actually
me
sounds
know.
extremely
Let me know
interesting.
what you think. It studies, yeah, like a bunch of companies that we know today. So it looks at like Hewlett Packard, Disney, and a bunch of others. Super interesting.
So, I know we're coming up on time here. Is there anything you want to leave the readers with? Uh, Top three tips for people who are looking for jobs, maybe top three tips for beginning programmers, or any key lessons you've learned. I mean, you've been extremely insightful. I mean, I've learned a lot in this conversation.
Thank you so much, Mati. Me
I
too. And
appreciate you coming on so much because
I
this.
am a fan of your content, and I have learned a ton also through all the conversations that you've had with people and your own thoughts. I think you're a modern philosopher, and that's great. We need more of that. We need more people looking at the big picture. So yeah, and I'm super happy to call you my friend. Yeah, so top three tips. Well, selfishly, I will say if you're looking for a job, join drafted.com. We'll take you in happily.
You'll get helped
Platforms
by
change.
this guy. This guy is gonna help you. Don't forget that for him.
platform platform is changing a ton. So yeah, bear with us there. You're probably going to be seeing a lot of changes throughout. But yeah, join drafted.com. Definitely try that. And I mean, the cool thing about Drafted is that even if you don't use the platform to actually search for positions, if you record your what we call your video resume and put your your personal website if you have it, GitHub if you have it, resume, you have a unique link that you can put in your LinkedIn and use as you wish. Like there's no strings attached there. So yeah, and hopefully it can make you stand out and give recruiters a good sense of the candidate that you are. But yeah, other tips I would say it can be super frustrating to be in the job search. Like sometimes you can go on for months. Like the average is 9 months, right? So again, it's crazy. Like in Drafted Mati, we have job seekers from like the very top schools like Harvard, Stanford, Carnegie Mellon. Most of the top ones are there, and all organic, by the way. So like you can see that the issue is real. You know, it doesn't matter if you're in a good school. It's hard, but what we're trying to accomplish is giving job seekers a platform to show why they're great storytellers, why they're builders, and I think we're doing something that's a little controversial, and I like it a lot, which is we want to prove that job search can be fun, because I think job search is usually associated with anxiety and like death. To be honest, yeah, just anxiety like death, like just just worry. Also, just a lot of anxiety and worry. We want to prove that it can be fun, and yeah, we also want to prove that you can leverage your personal story and personal challenges and setbacks to make yourself more competitive. Right now, we live in a society in which we rely on a piece of paper. You throw the piece of paper to, an algorithm that tries to find the right word match, and it's a black box. If there's no, you could have been the best hire in the history of that company. You could have been the CEO of that company eventually, but they didn't even give you the first interview just because that algorithm said so. So yeah, we're trying to humanize job search. We do genuinely care. Tech wise, I know we didn't get a lot of time to talk about that, but we did it in a very intentional way, and we definitely took the long way, and we chose a problem that is definitely not the easiest, but we decided to pursue it because we think it can have the largest impact. So yeah, wish us luck. There's still a lot of work to do, but thanks, Mati, for giving me this. I don't know if you have any other follow up questions. I have a bit more time if you want, or your call.
Sure. What else do you want to talk about?
I don't know. You tell me. How
So,
are
all
you?
right. So, future trends. So, you were recently at a
Future
Bloomberg
trends.
conference. So let's
Yes.
let's take a step back. Let's look at the bigger picture. Let's envision the future because we have a lot of coalescing technologies. We have
Yes.
quantum computing helping simulations. We have biology and understanding how our bodies work and also creating new types of plants from different genomes. We have energy on the rise. We have a lot of need for energy because of all these GPUs that we need to use for
Yes.
AI.
Yes. How do we keep our planet clean, right?
And I think there are so many mindset shifts that you talked about just with the culture and
Yes.
just in general. There are so many mindset shifts and societal changes that are happening right
Sure.
now with clean eating, with curiosity as a
Yes.
philosophy, as a way of life. I think there are so many things that are changing. So, what big trends do you see for the world and that you learned at this conference and beyond? And then we can end there after that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking at some notes that I took there. Yeah, there were a couple of super cool guests. There was one of the founders and the CEO of Cloudflare. So amazing. But yeah, let me see. There were a couple of things, and I think all the points that you mentioned are definitely very very timely. Um, I would like to be more up to date on the latest on quantum. I think you being at IBM should definitely leverage that. I think it's a very interesting topic. Um, there's a very cool historical figure who was a physicist called Richard Feynman, and he was involved early on, very, very on in quantum computing. And he has a couple, I think, like videos and papers. So So Feynman, there's this thing called the Feynman technique. Maybe you've heard it, Mati, which is like breaking down things a lot and explaining things simply. If you guys look up like Richard Feynman explaining like super complicated stuff is actually amazing because he breaks it down up to like very granular details, but in a very understandable way. Yeah, just a thought. I think it applies to that because you could tell an LLM like use the Feynman technique to explain X. That's it, and
Very
it'll
proud.
be you will have a good result probably. Yeah, 90% you'll have a good result. And but yeah, in terms of the general like the general like feeling or themes that I saw and that I'm seeing. Um, let's see. I think yeah, I'm very bullish on voice in general, voice agents. I think voice is perhaps more natural than typing or writing with our hands because it's. I'm pretty sure voice. We had voice. Yeah, of course we had voice before scripture, right? So it's an older communication form for us, and it's easier. Also, Mati, another tool that I will recommend. Yeah, I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but I started using this tool called Whisper Flow. That's WISPR. And when you're coding, instead of typing stuff like, for example, if you're using Cursor or an equivalent, or even I mean GPT has voice recognition, but if you're using Cursor, you can talk to the code, so you can talk to the agent, and sometimes it's going to be much quicker than typing. Like you can say like, this looks this way, fix this or optimize this. This wasn't what I asked for. So yeah, I do definitely recommend like pairing Whisper Flow with Cursor or an equivalent. It speeds up your workflows by a ton. But yeah, so going back to voice because there was I think the CTO of Poly AI, which is a voice agent, talked about some things, and I think he was talking about like how voice will be integrated into every single workflow, and there was a demo that they did ordering some food with the agent. Yeah, I don't know. I think voice is super powerful, and I'm very bullish on it. I think. I mean, to be honest, I know that there's a lot of players already involved, but I'm surprised because I would imagine it would be double of what we have right now, to be honest. And that may be controversial, but I don't know why more people are not working fully on that because I think it can lead to many great things. Like I don't know, Matt, you probably do this a lot, but like you try to envision what the near and long term future will be, and I envision like through voice having every single surface that we interface with, like from our screen to like even our tabletop or like where we cook, whatever, everything to be like interfaceable, like we can interact with everything, through voice or whatever it is. Like for example, I always imagine like, okay, how's like a kitchen in the future going to look like? And I would imagine like everything being not a screen. I don't know if a screen, but everything being like configurable, and just using your voice or just touch or whatever it is to manage it. Oh, and eventually, beyond voice, when you look at Neuralink, you'll be able to control and code through your mind through like neuron synapses. So that's even more radical, but that will come for sure. Like I think humans will always opt for less friction for sure,
Yeah.
always, and that's been the case. I mean, because that's been the case the last thousand or so years. So that's going to continue. Like I mean, to give some peace to people, I do think that there's certain things that will hold, and we just need to. I mean, if you want to build like software around that or a business around that, you have to take bets on things that will hold. And I know I've used Amazon references a lot. Excuse me for that. I did spend some time there, but yeah, when Jeff Bezos was starting Amazon, so he left New York, he took off to Seattle. He created his business plan like on the road on an Excel sheet. And one of the things that he said was, I don't know at what point really. So he wrote up on a napkin like a flywheel, and he said like customers are always going to want great variety and great quality of product. So the more quality and the more variety and the more quantity, the better. So that it's going to be a flywheel. So yeah, that's what he would say, and he would also say like people would say like, oh, like are you an internet company or not? And that is synonymous to are you an AI company or not? And he would say, I don't care if we're an internet company or not. We just want to service our customers, and that's the same case today. It doesn't because I was talking to so in the conference, I was talking to the co-founder of a robotics company based in Italy. And we were talking about, and I was talking to their engineers as well. And we were complaining about how like everyone rushes to just put the AI sticker into everything. Like they have a robot that works in clinics. Sometimes the robot just needs to pick up something. There's certain things where we don't need AI in. So yeah, like at the end of the day, I think every single company ended up becoming an internet company. Every single company will end up becoming an AI company or AI native, as I use that buzzword. So it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, what matters is bringing value to customers, bringing value to people, even if it's, I mean, in any way, like even if it's a fun game that distracts someone from a long day, it can be anything. Like anything that's helpful is valuable, in my opinion. Yeah, just food for thought. Like I just, it's like a balance, right? Because we have AI, the AI thing buzzword in our face all day, but it's like the most important thing is how do we use this new tool to help, you know? Not to just say like, oh, I built an AI game or an AI company. Like, it needs to bring value. Every company in the future will be an AI company. Same as every company has a website today. Every company is an AI company, right? That's the same
I
thing.
think Jeff Bezos said it himself. He said, every good product changes people's lives in some way or the other. So if you're
Yes,
building something, ask yourself, is it going to change their lives in a meaningful way? And I think that's one of the keys to unlocking great products and understanding where you should focus your energy and your attention. And I think augmented reality is going to be wonderful too as interfaces, and it's going to require a lot of real-time visual processing, but that'll come
yes,
eventually.
yes, for
We're
sure.
going to need hardware improvements, but being able to look at a wall and maybe I see a poster, but maybe
Exactly.
you see a different poster, but then maybe I can program my wall so that when you
Yeah,
come into my house, you
yeah,
can see like a carousel of posters, but they're not actually
yes,
there. So, I
yes.
mean, there's so much to play with. There's so
Yeah,
much to expand
the,
on.
that's an amazing point, Mati.
The voice element of it, the ease through which you can interact with the world through voice is going to be something else. And just
For sure.
imagine just saying one thing to an AI, but having it to the point where it scales, where you have 100 parallel agents working on
Exactly.
single task for you,
Millions of
whether it's
agents.
science, medicine,
Yeah,
experiences, games,
100%.
like learn to create. I mean, if I were
Yes,
to like learn to create, if I were to give any advice right now,
I agree.
focus on your ability to create. Creativity,
100%.
key skill. Create.
Creativity.
Think outside the box. Go
Yeah.
beyond. Go for it. Just do
Yes.
it.
And if you're at a point where you're like, okay, like how do I become creative? What you do is, we all have passions and we all have interests. Try and find an angle in which you learn something useful through that, so that you maintain yourself interested and energized by doing it, and then you start getting ideas. But yeah, I think with the whole AI revolution, it will unlock time and energy for humans to dedicate to creativity, and creativity can result in scientific discoveries, technological advancements, improvements in medicine, improvements in infrastructure, whatever it is. So I think it's great. Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm very optimistic. Yeah, Mati, good call on bringing up AR. I'm extremely bullish on AR. I think the digital world and the physical world will continue to merge more and more and more. I mean, already is, but we're still in an early age in which it's just boxes of light. So it will be everywhere. Yeah, I think it will. Yeah, I'm very bullish on voice and AR 100%. Super
It's
cool.
gonna be
Super
crazy.
cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Stay tuned for the things we will build.
For sure. No, 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 for sure.
We're
Everyone.
gonna
Yeah,
look back in 10
guys.
years. You're gonna be like, wow.
Just get in there and find stuff that you're passionate about and go with that is what I would say. And don't be intimidated. Like don't be intimidated by code. Code at the end of the day is just a tool. It's a man-made tool to make stuff. That's it. No different than a Lego block or whatever it is.
100%. That's the mindset. That's the perfect mindset.
Awesome. Maybe we can end it with that.
Awesome. Let's do it.